Morning, guys. I'm up bright and early. I'm just in my garden, the back of my house. So this rare interview is Priscilla Presley being interviewed on the 28th of July in 1986, and she's being questioned about the Elvis and Me book that has been a massive success and sold 1 million copies already. And part of this series that I'm doing on my Priscilla Presley interviews is to try and see the differences between Priscilla's stories, how she was talking about Elvis back in the 80s and how that changed over the decades, good and bad. So let's listen. Thanks.
America's appetite to know all it can about the private life of Elvis Presley is evident by Priscilla Presley's book, Elvis and Me.
The hardback edition of Her Life with Elvis sold almost 1 million copies. It was #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. In it, she talks about the darker side of Elvis, the drugs, the power, the obsessions of the king of rock and roll.
So the whole world wanted to know about Elvis, but obviously this interview is in America, and the Americans really wanted to know the behind-the-scenes details of Elvis, but also there were many people upset with Priscilla for writing this book, and they wanted her question on why she wrote the book and what her motives were. Let's keep listening.
Well, if you're dying to hear all about it, but you didn't want to fork over the cost of the hardback book, you're in luck.
2 million copies of the paperback version have just been released, and Priscilla Presley joins us live now from Hollywood to talk about it.
And here she is, looking very 1986, the way they dress, the hair, it's very typical of that era. And it must take some courage to go on that show and talk about Elvis. And I think the interview starts off very friendly. Let's see how it goes.
Welcome, Priscilla.
Thank you.
Lynn has just said that you're prettier now than ever before.
Oh, thank you very much.
And as many interviews that I see, they always comment on her good looks and how beautiful she is and how well she's aged. And I think her beauty and the fact that she has a very youthful look, even at this age, I'm guessing she's in her late 30s, I think that's part of the reason why the public was so fascinated with Priscilla, because she was a stunning woman. Let's keep looking.
When you see the old pictures that you put in the book and of the wedding, of the big hairdos that Elvis liked and the dramatic makeup, what do you think when you see those pictures today?
Believe me, it took a lot to have them in the book. When I went back and I started rounding up all these pictures, I thought, oh my God, do I have to do this? If I could have torn them and got rid of them, but it's history, and I figured, well, I might as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So they're still just keeping things light-hearted. They're making a bit of fun of the hairstyles back in the 60s and the makeup. Let's keep going.
And what did you think about it at the time?
At the time, it didn't seem so bad, actually. I thought, gee, this is the style, and he likes it, and it's different, and why not?
So this is when the interviewers, both of them, start to probe her, and I do find that they are trying to find the negatives in Elvis. So let's just keep listening.
I think you wrote that he coached you on your hairstyle and your makeup and all those other things.
That's right, he did.
What were some of his ideas in those directions?
Well, already it was he's always liked a lot of makeup, and at that time in the 60s, especially 63, 64, heavy makeup was very much the thing. And the teased hair was very much, so that was right along his style. I mean, he really liked that. And I don't know, I wish I could put it behind him.
So the gist of it is that Elvis encouraged Priscilla on how to dress, how to do her hair, how to wear her makeup, and just generally he styled Priscilla back in the 60s and early 70s. But what is the problem with this? I mean, I'm married and I encourage my wife to wear things that suit her. Obviously, she has to like it as well, and she oftenly asks my opinion on what I think suits her, whether it be hair, makeup, or clothing, or shoes. And it's not because I'm trying to be controlling. I'm just being a husband or a boyfriend. Let's keep listening.
You said that you got tired, though, of him always criticizing your shortcomings. What did he think were some of your shortcomings?
Well, I don't know if they were my shortcomings or his shortcomings. I don't know, he just, it's like a doting father, you know. You have to sit up straight all the time, you know, you have to. He always felt that. In fact, today I wore a high collar, but not purposely. He felt my neck was too long, that I should always cover my neck up, and that was definitely a shortcoming. So I became quite insecure with myself at that time. I don't think he was doing it intentionally to hurt me, but that basically was his problem. I mean, he felt he had his, you know, that his neck was too long, and that he always covered him up and wore high collars to, you know, pretty well cover that. So that's what I mean when I said I don't know if they were mine really or his. At that time, I took it very seriously.
And she did take it very seriously. Does she mean that she listened to him and went along with his advice on how to dress and wear makeup, etc.? Or does she mean it really upset her and it made her want to leave him and maybe even have affairs? But I don't like the ending of this interview because I feel that something has been twisted, because I just think Elvis was a loving husband or boyfriend that really just wanted her to look her best. She was very young, she was not worldly, so she needed good advice on how to dress. I think she had gone to Gracelands around 16, so those young ages, right up into her early 20s, it's okay to have guided her on how she dressed and how she wore her makeup and did her hair. And I just think something has been twisted into making him come across as this controlling person that had stifled her and almost imprisoned her. And I think this is where Priscilla has gone wrong. He meant no harm. She even says this at the end of the interview. He didn't mean it in a bad way. He was trying to do the right thing for her. She called it like a doting father, but I don't think so. I just think like a husband. And I don't think Elvis did anything wrong in trying to encourage Priscilla to look her best. So unfortunately, she doesn't get my vote on this. And if you look at interviews of today, she doesn't mention these kind of things in such a negative way. I find a lot of these things are said in the 80s, and then the story has changed. Now, I'm not against Priscilla, but I am trying to analyse and see why Priscilla, over the years, was quite negative, especially in the 80s and 90s. But then the whole story has completely changed into the fact that she still loves him, and she acts like she was married to him when he passed away, and almost like she's had no other relationships, and that she had never had any affairs. So I just think the propaganda between her and Elvis is wrong. I'm going to keep analysing it with further interviews. Thanks a lot, everyone, from the UK.